G'day folks, Ministry Shirts back with a quick tips and traps video for you budding screen printers out there. Some of you have asked to see how we do registration on the manual press using the micro reg. So I thought I'd give you a quick demo on this little 2-color print now. So let's zoom in and take a look. Okay, we've got the camera in a better position, so hopefully you can see what's going on here, and we're going to get this job registered. We tend to register jobs on card. Some people do that, some people use actual garments, some people use other types of very thin garments, specifically for this, called pellons. We find card is the best. And what we're going to do is just very lightly spray tack this with a bit of Wilflex spray tack. We'll drop this on the flatten, just stretch it down. Now, we've inked this up already. This is a very light print, so that's why we've used a dark card. We also use orange card and white card for various colours. It's got a very light print, so we want to be able to see the rego marks very carefully before we line up the second colour, which is a sort of maroon reddy colour. Obviously you want to make sure this is a left chest print, so you want to make sure you get that registered in position before you go ahead. Obviously get the card down, give it one pass, don't go crazy on flooding ink into that. You can see it's produced a nice sharp image, a little bit blurred here where I possibly pressed a bit too hard. But don't keep printing that, just do a one press. On card that should be fine. And now we're going to put on a little bit of contact transfer paper. My colleague in the background, whom you can't see, is cutting it for me. Thank you. And contact transfer paper is specifically used to transfer a vinyl from the other contact to this, so you can put it on a window, but we find it works really well. Some people use sellotape, and that's okay too, a little bit sticky and slower. And when you put this down, what you want to make sure is you put it down in the center like that and let it roll down gently, trying not to force it or smudge it in any way. Get a little cloth, just very lightly give it a smooth out, and that's ready for us to line up our second screen. So we bring that in now. This has not been pre-registered, so it could be way out, and hopefully we'll find out. Yeah, it's fantastically out, so that's good. We can show you how to get this in line. My cameraman or camera lady will show you just how far out that is. I don't know if you can get it a wee bit closer there, Lydia. So you can see there that the rego mark for this top one is out from those. It's just got to go down that way, possibly horizontally as well. So we'll show you how we do that. Now I always use my glasses for this, I'm a bit older and need to see very carefully to get those rego marks lined up. So I'll show you a bit about micro reg first. So this is a manual press, it's a Vastex 2000, which is the top range press that you can get. It's an 8-color press with 8 patterns, so that means we can do what's called simulated process, and it's got micro registration on it. So there's lots of little knobs and bars to move around here, but we're just going to play with these two rather than the off contact or the pitch. The pitch raises it up at the front, off contact raises the whole print head, but we want to actually work on this micro reg here, so we'll snap those open, which basically just unlocks them. This moves the screen back that way, a curving way. This does the same here, and this knob here moves like that, and each one of these turns is a fraction of an inch. I'm told it's 1,000 of an inch, but not quite sure whether it's really that precise, but that's what they tell us. So we're going to move it in now, and I'll just twiddle the knobs, but you can probably see, if I twiddle them, you'll see it starting to move. So we go that much that way. You can see it's starting to come in at the bottom, but it's out at the top. So it's going to move the top out that way. Oops, sorry. Just slide it in a little bit more. There you go, and if the camera's good we should be able to see that they're all in line. And sadly this side was smudged, but I will do a little bit of tweaking to get that a bit more in line. There's no sense in rushing micro reg because obviously it's micro, you want to get it right. It's looking a bit better. Just work on the other side. Bring that back. These are pretty standard rego marks. People use different rego marks, that's fine. It's whatever works for you. Now you can see those rego marks are perfect. If you can see all of those. And you might say, well, that's great. Well done, Sam. But if you actually look at the image, there's a tiny, tiny discrepancy. And that's probably because these rego marks over here I smudged. So by not putting the contact down correctly. So even though these are perfectly in line, we want to check the actual image itself. I can see it's still just a tiny bit out. This is what we call a choke on it. So there is going to be a slight edge around each one of these so that it prints perfectly for us. I think that's pretty close. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is hold down the screen with my hand, very important, and I'll tighten up the micro reg bars here. And a quick tip, when you move the head up and down for the first time after resetting the micro reg, it can adjust slightly. So that's the same on all presses. So what we do is let that flick up, go to its normal place, lock it back in, and then we have another quick look. Let's check. Again, it needs to come up this way a tiny bit, so let's snap that out. Sometimes you can get it looking absolutely dead on and then discover that it isn't. So we'll lock that in, do the same, put it up, put it down, have one last look. Might be slightly out, but I'm willing to put a hit of ink on it. No, it is slightly out. I'm just going to bring it back one tiny bit this way. 1/1000 of an inch, maybe. Okay, let's give that a go. If you've got a loose screen, like you want a taut screen, here's a tip and a trap. If you've got an older screen and it's loose, you do not want to be doing a color registration with multiple colors because you might have it perfectly lined up, but when you come to actually print that, the action of the squeegee on top of the screen might pull this, if it's loose, it might just pull the screen a fraction of a mil, in which case you obviously have to reset it. So you really want taut screens, new screens, well stretched, and you can test the tautness with a Newtonometer, which we'll do another video about in due course. Okay, let's get this inked up and have a look at our rego. Use this nice scarlet ink. Again, let's mix up the ink. Always give it a good mix so that the plasticizers inside the ink bond. It's a polymer, in case you wanted to know how it works. Let's get a squeegee. And because this is a small left chest print, we're just going to put a G-clamp here. There's no need to run the squeegee all the way up. In fact, we've got another print on the other side. So let's ink it up. Single pass. Let's have a look at our results. And that looks pretty spot on. See a slight, maybe 1/4 mil out there, but it's not enough for me to worry about. So that looks pretty good. So the last thing I want to do now, and you can see the regos are slightly out because of what I was saying earlier. You just have to watch out for that. But it feels like a pretty taut screen. The last thing I would do with this is actually do a test print. So what we'll do over here is we'll heat up the platen and get a garment and do a test print. So here's our flash dryer over here. And this, we're not printing today, we're just doing a setup. I think we've got 5 jobs here to set up with different colours. So I'm just going to manually heat up the platen. When you do your testing like this, you do want to do it as if it was a real scenario. So you don't want to print on a cold platen. Platens have to be hot to print on, not too hot, because the garment will shrink just a fraction, even with cotton, and you want that to have happened before you print. So we do want to check the temperature of this. It's pretty good. I'll just get a scrap garment from somewhere. You always have them kicking around. A little bit of a mess, but it's okay, it'll work fine. So let's give it a first print. We'll leave the rego marks uncovered just now. So flood, stroke. Did 2 there, it's probably unnecessary, it's such a light print. Let's flash that, dry it off. And we've got this set, I think, for 10 seconds. That normally brings the temperature of, just needs a little bit more. When the platen's hot enough, that normally brings the temperature up to around 130 degrees, just for probably 6 or 5 seconds of that 10 seconds, which is usually enough to flash cure. In case you don't know, flash cure simply dries the top of the ink, doesn't cure the whole print. We don't want that to happen until it goes into the oven. Okay, well that's flash cured, so let's pop our red on top. So nice black flood, couple of hits, and there it is, look at that, looks pretty good. Now in the case of a lot of jobs, we will actually take a photograph of that and send it to the client just to get their final approval, and once they give us that, we can start printing. Okay, so thanks for watching. Plenty of tips and traps there. One last trap to be really aware of. Once we've gone through the whole registration system and we're already excited that the print's lined up and looks fantastic, don't forget to mask off or to tape off the registration marks. There's nothing worse than getting to this point of a print, setting up, getting your loader to load, your platens are warm, everything's set up, it's nice and inked, the oven's ready to go, and the first t-shirt comes around and you print it and the rego marks are there. Done that a few times, so remember to do that. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.